Has the game ever been so engaging that you've started to play late in the night, only to look up and notice the sunrise through your window? Or have you ever been so deep in the atmosphere of a game that even though you're perfectly safe in your room, you were terrified of proceeding into the next level? That was Presence, the feeling of closing out the rest of the world and fully immersing yourself into the game.
All the bunkers, nooks and crannies, exits. Still,
Games are becoming more and more realistic every day. So much so that now you can pick up a virtual reality headset and be able to physically feel in the game world. Tracking your body, VR enables players to feel a sense of spatial presence and see the game's world at full scale and interact with it with their own two hands, pushing the feeling of immersion to the next level. But before all this new technology, I'm sure many people have felt a similar feeling already. Even with a keyboard, mouse, or controller on a flat screen, we've always been able to find ourselves immersed in games. Spatial presence, the feeling of being somewhere else, happens in two basic steps, where the player has to build a mental image of the virtual world around them, and then subconsciously decide whether or not they want to jump in and favor the virtual world as a point of reference instead of the real one. This second step can happen fast, switching in and out between the two worlds depending on how engaged they are with the game. A study from the International Journal of Computer Games Technology showed that when questioning players on their engagement with the game, their feeling of presence tended to relate positively with the flow. When elements of the game break the flow, the player is taken out of their immersed state. But how exactly do developers make a rich enough virtual world, and how do they make players want to be in that world? Here, we will discuss a particular genre where it's essential that the player is immersed in the game. The survival horror genre. Survival horror games require a player to be fully engaged in the game in order to feel scared and paranoid. A true feeling of terror is created when a player hears the footsteps of something behind them coming to get them. These games have worlds that are crafted to all make sense and feel real. In Metro 2033 and Last Light, the player encounters stations, a break from the loneliness of the tunnels where the underground settlers live, and they actually feel real. The NPCs have places to live, eat, and entertain themselves. You can't walk down a corridor without hearing their conversations with each other, with everyone having something going on in their lives. The details scattered through all these locations really make you feel like you're in a living world. And when the game removes you from these loud, lively places into the lonely post-apocalyptic world, it really makes a player feel tense. Outlast II throws you into a world filled with religious cults and psychopaths. From the shabby wooden houses laying in the darkness, to the vast cornfields that leave you with a feeling of loneliness and isolation, it completely immerses you in a rural American town. With its rich design, it makes a player feel like there's always something creeping around each corner waiting to jump in. These rich, lively worlds allow the player to build a mental image of a real world, allowing them to feel a sense of spatial presence, making the game all the more terrifying. Metro, Dead Space, and Outlast all use similar techniques to get their players immersed in the games. They all utilize either diegetic user interface or minimal hidden UI in order to get the player to focus on the environment itself. Instead of making the player look around at a flat UI plane in the front of their face, they use means that are more realistic for the game world, like the health bar on the back of Isaac's suit in Dead Space, or the inventory on the player's physical body and camera in Outlast 2. This prevents player from leaving the environment and preserving the atmosphere the game has developed for the player. More traditional menus and inventory systems that halt the flow of the game give the player some time to break from the world, reassuring them that this is indeed still a game. To keep the player preferring this world over the real one, these developers have chosen more diegetic interfaces over traditional ones, keeping the player in a state of spatial presence since everything, even the UI, has a reason to exist in this virtual world. Through these means, the survival horror genre is one of the most immersive genres gaming has to offer. Without special equipment or headsets, the player can achieve a feeling of spatial presence, being terrified for the character to walk down a corridor or to open the next door. Only the future can tell how developers will push this to the next level, developing similar games for VR, utilizing the more immersive hardware. The games we have mentioned create realistic worlds filled with characters and environments that feel real and make sense, allowing the player to create a mental image that their mind can grasp onto. They then utilize user interfaces that don't break up this world, keeping the player in flow and keeping the player in the dark atmosphere they've created for them. Paranoid and afraid.